use the word emergency for the first time in about...
This is Jim, and
Receiving this message. We are Ken Jennings and John Roderick. We speak to you from our present, which we can only assume is your distant past, the turbulent time that was the early 21st century.
Fearing the great cataclysm that will surely befall our civilization, we began this monumental reference of strange and obscure human knowledge. These recordings represent our attempt to compile and preserve wonders and esoterica that would otherwise be lost.
So whether you're listening from an advanced civilization or have just reinvented the technology to decrypt our transmissions, this is our legacy to you.
This is our time capsule. This is the Omnibus.
You have accessed entry 754.PS10740, certificate number 36485. Management by wandering around.
Yeah. If you could just go ahead and make sure you do that from now on, that would be great. And I'll go ahead and make sure you get another copy of that memo. Okay?
Yeah, no, I have the memo. I've got it. It's right. Hello, Phil.
Would you describe yourself as being in a management capacity at the Jeopardy television program?
No. What is the opposite of that?
So you're just eye candy?
It's weird. Like there's, I think it's the reason why that awful term, like talent, gets used. It's because there are people who don't fit in the org chart. Like I often find out about things last. I don't really, like I'm not on any mailing lists. There was some all hands meeting last week when I was there, and it turned out to be nothing. It was like, good job winning the Emmy. Ratings are great. We got you guys a coffee truck. But I never even found out about it. Like I kind of wandered in and was like, oh, hey, what's up? I just kind of stood by the side.
But you are, in some other way of looking at it, at the top of the
That's
machine.
right. You would assume it was the most prestigious job, but in fact, nobody wants to ask me what I think.
Right.
Nobody reports to me. Nobody needs my feedback. I don't have a spot in the org chart. So I'm like parallel to it. There's like a third dimension outward from the org chart, which is just my face
right.
in 3D.
You and Pat Sajak that are just kind of wandering around the cantina.
So when people say talent, I don't think they mean, ooh, the talent. I think a lot of times they mean the talent.
Here they come, the talent.
So you can hear the finger quotes.
When you were working at your last job, which it was as a computer tech, right? Or a computer programmer?
Yeah.
Is that what they called them then?
I think so. I think I said software engineer when I was on Jeopardy, but just sounded a little fancier.
What language were you engineering in?
Mostly Java.
Java.
And is it engineering just to sit and typey? Is that really engineering? Not so much.
So. No, I don't think it is at all, really.
I think to engineer something, it might have to exist.
Yeah. You have to be able to draw it on a napkin.
Like if I'm in a text editor like Emacs, what am I engineering?
Yeah, you're engineering your paycheck.
That's right. I'm trying to engineer my mortgage payment.
But how many levels of management were there above you when you were a software engineer? How big was the company, first of all?
It was a pretty big company. They did healthcare staffing, still do. Big Salt Lake City area employer. And they specialized in this weird thing I didn't really know about.
That's good for the engineers.
It's really amazing when the engineers don't understand the product.
Like, I don't know what we're
and don't want to leave their cubicles to find out.
Right.
Locum tenens is a kind of...
You're just saying sounds now.
It's a Latin thing. It sounds legal, but it's...
Locum tenens.
It's mostly medicine only. It just means like kind of temporary assignments. Like we need somebody at this clinic for 6 months to be a radiology tech.
Oh, I see. Sure.
I don't know why it has to have a fancy Latin name.
So
doctors.
It's like a staffing company for
basically
temporary,
like matching up kind of a lot of semi-retired doctors who are like, yeah, I'd work 6 months in Arizona this summer or this winter. Why not?
That's who you want.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure the patients loved it.
He carries his own little reflex whacker. He's like, they don't make these anymore.
Got that little reflecty thing on his forehead. He's just looking at brochures of the hot air balloon races. He doesn't want to be at work. So it was a pretty big company. I reported to my manager, Glenda, who covered for me on Jeopardy. She was great. She knew the secret. And then she reported directly to the CTO, I want to say, Brent.
What did Brenda say to your coworker? Oh, Glenda.
There's a Glenda and a Brent, but no Brenda. This is not an Ed Wood movie.
I see. So Glenda, the Good Witch,
correct,
said to she had to have been named after the Good Witch, right?
I think the Good Witch is Glinda with an I.
Glinda, yeah.
But
what did
if
she
you're
say
in New Zealand, it's the same.
To your coworkers when you were gone for months?
I feel like she would often make up. Maybe I'm just misremembering this. This is just lore I invented because it was funnier. I think she would just say different stuff. Oh, Ken's under the weather. Ken's kid is sick. Ken's painting his basement.
For 6 months?
Ken's out of town. I mean, I wasn't gone for 6 months. What's the word?
Time?
Consecutively. I was gone off and on for 6 months, but it would be like, Ken's gone Tuesday, Wednesday. Oh, now he's gone Tuesday, Wednesday again. Oh, he's here all week. Now he's gone Monday, Tuesday.
Oh, I see. You just went down for those lengthy recording sessions that you still do.
And they would just put me back on a Southwest flight in coach, and I'd be back at work the next day, and I couldn't tell anybody what had been going on.
And at what point were you sitting in the office and the episode started to air and people were like, hey, what are you doing here?
Nobody had figured it out. Like, I mean, it just shows how little people are thinking about you. The great lesson of adolescence and young adulthood. You're fine. No one noticed.
No one is thinking about you as much as you are.
No one cares.
Right.
And so, this is a great application of this. If you're 20 something, you can just miss a ton of work.
Yeah. Apparently you can miss a ton of work and be on a game show for all these months and no one even knew.
3 months in, I announced it. Yeah, I'm going to be on Jeopardy. And I think, let's see, did they know that I had gone down the first time? I think I had told people I was going down the first time. So then I kept disappearing, but no one put two and two together.
Right. They assumed you had gone down and lost like everyone else. But
so much for software engineers.
Then your kids were sick.
Couldn't add two integers.
So Glenda reported to Brent,
who was the CTO.
The CTO of the company.
Of the whole company.
And then Brent reported to the CEO.
My guess is he reported to Mike Weinholz, who maybe was and is CEO, like ill-advised Utah Democratic gubernatorial run, but it's what always happens to the Utah Democratic candidate.
Mm-hmm. They're a sacrificial lamb.
Good guy, good boss, good place to work, but it might have just been 3 levels above me. And I've never had anybody below me, and you've never reported to anyone ever? I guess that's not true. You always had one boss, probably.
Well, let's see. My last job was in 1999.
You better update that resume.
And I worked at Steve's Broadway News, and my boss was Steve. And Steve,
as we can tell, he did not report to anyone. It's his Broadway News.
Steve came into work once a week. And I might or might not be there. It was one of those jobs where when you were at work, you were the only person in the store. And the person that came after you...
Then didn't you have to be there? Oh, somebody else. It could have been somebody else's shift when Steve came in. I thought you were saying he showed up and you had just checked out for a smoke, leaving all the magazines unattended.
No, sometimes, you work in the morning. Sometimes you work at night.
Right.
And Steve was only there, for 2 hours in the middle of the day. Before that, though, I did work... I worked at a stock brokerage and I worked at a bank. I worked at Seafirst Bank. And when I worked at Seafirst in the loan department, in a high-rise office.
People were coming to you for loans?
They weren't.
Oh.
There were hundreds and hundreds of people in that company. The Seafirst Bank employed probably thousands of people in all their operations. But in the loan department, my job was just to help loan officers approve mortgages. And so I just really walked around with a cart full of files.
Were you actually doing the research on people's credit ratings and stuff? Or?
I was moving files, and I was taking files and putting them back in the files, and I was finding files and bringing those files out to people that were requesting files. And it was marvelous work because I'm a librarian at heart, and I had control of this huge, I mean, it was all paper files still. There were computers. There had been them since the 40s.
One would think that Seafirst was a pretty big bank.
A huge bank.
Even before it got acquired by whatever it was. Washington Mutual? I don't know.
Yeah, Washington Mutual. And then, of course, acquired by Chase in some fire sale. But yeah, and at the stock brokerage I worked at, I was in the cage doing all of the actual, like cranking of the machines to make money out of nothing. But there were no computers in that space. And at Seafirst, I think the requests for files came on pieces of paper that were run to me by someone whose job it was to come in and say, here are the files. And I would go over to these huge stacks of files.
This is like a 30s office from the Hudsucker proxy.
But it was 1995.
Wow.
And then, I walked around with a cart full of files, and everybody in the business knew me. But it was
that's a good job for you too, because you're a librarian, but you're social.
And it was
hey, what's up? What's a good word? You got to say what's the good word probably
hey there,
28
what's
times
going on,
a day.
Bill? What's the good word? It was in the Seafirst Tower, which we now think of as the Columbia Center, and Seafirst probably had 50 floors, and those open plan office floors where anywhere you were, you could look all the way around and see out, a panoramic view of the city, except for the corners, which were offices of managers.
What's that building called now?
Columbia Center. Columbia Tower.
I thought the Seafirst building was its own building.
Oh, it was, but Seafirst took over the Columbia's Tower at some point.
Oh, okay. That old Seafirst building is now, I don't even know what.
But anyway, I was managed by a manager who was managed by a manager who was managed by a manager. And my manager was a woman who had blonde hair and wore a pinstripe suit.
Are you describing her because it's important to the story or because you don't know her name?
I have no idea what her name was. And she was kind of mean to me because I was not directly making any money. I was just some guy with a green visor who walked around saying, what's the good word with files? And she's the one who I went on vacation to New York City for 10 days. And when I came back, I walked in and the receptionist at the desk by the elevators was like, oh, hi, John. And I was like, oh, hi. Assuming, I've been gone for 10 days. She didn't expect me. Oh, hi. And I walked in and I'm walking sort of down the corridor to my area and somebody passed me and was like, John. And I was like, hi. And I went and got to my desk and there was a little Asian gal sitting in my chair. And she said, oh, hi, you must be John. And I was like, hi. And she said, oh, I'm, Alexa or Brenda or Glinda.
Probably not Glinda.
And I was like, nice to meet you. Do you work here now? And she was like, I do. And she was very friendly. And so I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll sit over here. And then the guy that normally sat there was like, John. And I was like, oh, hi. And then some lower level manager said, oh, you should go talk to Karen or whatever in your office. And I went like, oh, interesting. I went to the corner office and she was like, oh, you're fired. And I said, fired? And she said, yeah, well, we got a new temp, Glinda, from the same temp agency that sent you. And she did like 8 times more work than you in the same amount of time. She was just clearing stuff off the to-do list to the point that she reorganized all the files and has brought a new system of efficiency. And I was like, well...
Now, hold on. In your memory of the job, had you been sandbagging a bit? Were you lollygagging? Did you feel like you were doing 1/8 the work of your job description?
No, but I did make the classic Roderick mistake of thinking that a measurable portion of my job was socializing with the bankers and making them feel good about the files and making them feel like they could trust me with their file requests. And I did spend...
You can't put a price tag on that well-being.
That's right.
Of knowing that the file boy is a reliable file boy.
And because, I stay up late, I did spend my lunch breaks sleeping, which didn't always end... The nap didn't always end exactly at the end of lunch break because I didn't have an alarm clock.
And who would at work? And the one thing you've told me about your job is that you just went to New York for 10 days.
There was that too.
Can't help.
But so I came back and I was just like so replaced and everybody had known. And I think maybe she called my house, but I don't think I had a
answering
machine of any kind. I don't know. Maybe at that point in time, I didn't have a phone. Anyway, I was the last to know. And so that was the last time I was managed. Definitely.
And very successfully you were managed.
I was managed right out of the door.
For a superior candidate.
and so I had to say like, hey, well, it was really nice meeting you. I hope that you have a good time working here. And she was like, thanks.
Please make the bankers feel good.
I like it. I like it here. And I was like, it sounds like it. But she was so nice. And then I talked to some people as I went out the door who had kind of stood up from their desks to say goodbye. And all of them were like, oh, boy, Glinda has really revolutionized this. She's doing such a good job. Like, she's really a pleasure to work with, too. Like, I really like her. Anyway, it's been great knowing you. And so I showed up for work at 8, and I was out of there by 8:45, just like on the street. And my girlfriend at the time was a bike messenger. And so I was like, well, I guess we're living on a bike messenger's salary. And she said, what do you mean we? I was like, oh.
This is all the beginning of a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I had to get a job at a pizza parlor for a while. Well, I had a boss
then
there.
You were managed again, probably.
Managed again, yeah,
Italian guy with a curly mustache at the end.
Pizza boss. Hey,
it's Pizza Boss.
I realized you're not even doing any work around here. You're out.
That's a Maya job.
But so neither of us have been managed in a long time. Do you remember?
And it shows.
Yeah. I mean, you're managed by your wife. I guess I'm managed by my daughter.
Yeah, it works out.
But they don't. At least my daughter doesn't appear to have a management style except just bullying.
So she does.
Does Mindy have a management style? Is it the carrot and the stick?
She's pretty conflict averse.
Her style is just do it all, and then you find out about it and feel like it's always been done.
Yeah, I think, because she's very competent, that is often what happens.
Yeah, you're like,
she manages tasks away from me.
Yeah, this whole household is running smoothly. It must be me.
What a great job I'm doing. Let me go talk to the bankers. Let me go tell Mindy she's doing a great job.
Well, management, as you know, is a whole universe.
I'm aware of it because I see people reading the books on planes or summaries of them. It seems like a bit of a cult more than a universe.
Well, you are not wrong. Management books and management theory and thinking and philosophy, it's a whole billion-dollar industry of, as far as I can discern, total horsepucky.
I think so.
Yeah. It's like basically woo self-help, except for people in brown shoes or people who, are trying to get ahead.
It's people with high six-figure salaries instead of their spouses who are reading the woo books.
Yeah, but it's manifesting, and it's all this kind of woo philosophy of human nature and psychology.
Well, they need to feel their jobs are very complicated.
I think so.
It's something you have to keep studying and growing in, or else they might have to look in the mirror and realize that's not always true of management.
What we learned during the pandemic was that the number one problem was with work from home was that there were all these levels of management that had nothing to do because there wasn't anything for them to do except manage other people who didn't need managing. They were all at home.
It's just been revealed to them that all those times they were like kind of standing behind you, giving you a little pat on the shoulder. Everything would have been fine without them doing that.
Yeah, all those meetings that could have been emails.
Existential crisis.
Yeah, they actually were emails, and it turned out, and I think the rise of Zoom probably put some of those managers back into the driver's seat, just like, well, I've scheduled another meeting.
Let's have a Zoom.
Yeah.
One thing I've realized is that now every phone call thinks it should be a Zoom. And it's because of managers who are like, oh, this will be more like a meeting if it's a Zoom. So somebody will just call to have me give a quote about something, and I look at the link and it's a Zoom, and I'm like, well, we don't need this.
No.
Phone works for this, and they seem puzzled by that. But what do you mean? And I said, well, you said you'd set up a call. I did. Set up a call. A Zoom is a call.
A Zoom is a call.
Is a Zoom a call? It's a type of call. It's a subset of call.
I mean, my favorite of the many things you've introduced me to, my favorite is your unwillingness to do a Zoom call with people, based kind of on the fact that you go, look, if I was going to do this for money, I would be getting $30,000 for this.
That is not the basis for it.
To spend 20 minutes on a call with somebody.
It's the same reason I don't want to be on this video right now, because I'm wearing like a Wheat Chex t-shirt.
Yeah.
Or what is it? Chex Mix.
Chex
I'm wearing
Mix.
a Chex Mix t-shirt.
An old Chex Mix. That's probably worth $200 on the vintage t-shirt market.
I don't want to be kidnapped. I don't want to be like blackjacked on the side of my head by somebody sucking me into a car because I have a desirable collectible Chex Mix t-shirt.
A lot of Gen Z believes that the way they are going to make a living is by thrifting old t-shirts from brands and selling them for $200. It's a whole universe of people that don't know what work is.
I just don't like the idea that I have to be seen. Like if I'm on the phone, I can wince when someone says something dumb. On Zoom, can I wince?
I don't know. I've only been on 4 Zoom calls in my life, and 2 of them were where I leaned over somebody's shoulder and went, "Hi, hi."
So I'm often like, "Oh yeah, I'm driving. I'm going to dial into this Zoom. Can you send me that weird 30-digit thing that lets me just be a voice in this?"
Is that what those are? Where you don't see people's faces? I thought it was just that they turned off their cameras.
There's that too.
Yeah,
but that just feels unfriendly. Like I chose to not let you see. Like why? What do I have a? Am I disfigured? Am I the Phantom of the Opera?
When my kid was in all those virtual classes during the pandemic where there's 30 kids in there and half of them have their cameras turned off, it's
that didn't work.
That kid's not there. That kid is out skateboarding or asleep or whatever.
Yeah, they were. I think all those kids were in bed and it showed.
Yeah. Well, the idea of management as a philosophy is a thing that, of course, evolved over time. When you think about 19th century business.
Yeah, were people thinking like, what are the 5 organizational strengths that I should be pivoting to today?
They super were not. They were, they were basing the success of their business on the things they made and whether those things worked or didn't. All quality control was sort of assessed at the very end of the process. The thing is made, and then you look at it.
Does it fit?
Does it fit?
Does it fit on the valve?
Does it fit? Is it broken? Is it not broken? There wasn't any analysis of process because it was a thought technology that hadn't yet evolved.
Much less branding, stuff like that, marketing.
Yeah, none of that.
All that kind of intangible property.
Or didn't exist in any kind of way. I mean, there was certainly competition, but most competition was...
But Wharton was not spending $600 billion a year studying it.
Yeah, and there weren't 70 different kinds of breakfast cereal, and I guess later there were, but they competed on the Naked Merits. I guess there weren't.
Is that a reality show? They competed on the Naked Merits?
Naked Merits. Tune in to Naked Merits.
I was gonna ask you, was business school even a thing?
No.
And I'm looking it up. The first advanced degree in business, 1900, Dartmouth.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the first. The MBA is just over 100 years old.
And this was very much a thing that originated in the Ivy League. But it was initially a lot of business thinking came out of sort of mathematics and physics people.
Oh, yeah.
Because
efficiency kind of stuff. Right?
Yeah, they were examining basically statistics because there was a kind of understanding that pretty much industrially, the idea of quality control initially was about adjusting the manufacturing process in reaction to nonconformities in the finished product. The thing comes out, it doesn't fit, it's wobbly, it's busted, and so let's go back then in reaction to this and adjust something in the machinery, something in the process to fix the problem.
And that's not optimal because you've already made 10,000 crappy widgets? Or?
Well, and also you are oftentimes just creating a new problem. Like you're going and fixing one aspect of it, and then that doesn't fit with the next thing. Like you're always playing whack-a-mole.
Everything's whack-a-mole on Omnibus.
Whack-a-mole is such a thing.
It's so much more important as a metaphor than it ever was as a carnival game, right?
Yeah.
Like we play whack-a-mole in life multiple times a day. Whack-a-mole at a carnival? I'm not sure I've ever even seen it. Maybe in a movie.
When was the last time you saw a mole?
It's true. I see the little the piles of dirt they make.
Yeah.
The actual moles are elusive.
When I was growing up in Seattle, there were no moles.
Is that right?
Did you ever see a mole?
I never
or
saw
a mole pile.
No.
The first time I ever saw a mole pile,
Are they invasive?
I don't know.
Wait, what about, why are you saying mole pile? Is that
Well, the mole pile. He was a great comic book artist of the 1950s.
relief pitcher, mole pile? No, isn't it a molehill?
A molehill. That's what it is.
You're making a mole pile out of a molehill.
I don't remember growing up in Seattle. I do not remember rabbits. I mean, I knew that there were rabbits. I read little books about
Rabbits
them.
having not yet been invented.
But I didn't know there were rabbits.
I think all the rabbits here are just escaped pets. That's why you didn't see rabbits.
Yeah, there were no rabbits in Woodland Park. And, rabbits in Woodland Park became like a plague.
Oh, yeah. I saw one on my street last night.
Yeah. So much so that I think at one point they were trapping rabbits and gassing them in the hundreds because there was no way you could get rabbits.
Public executions.
And then people were like, you can't do that. They did that with Canada geese too. Do you remember that?
Yeah. They were like, it's okay to kill these. Wink, wink.
These geese that are the size of golden retrievers.
These guys suck and we have too many of them and they're not migrating away. They just love Magnuson Park.
And nobody in Seattle complained until those damn kids, those meddling kids were like, wait a minute.
Goose lovers.
You can't do this. But yeah, there were no rabbits and I never saw a mole until I bought my first house. And I remember going out in the yard one day and being like, what the heck are all these all these piles of dirt? They're mole piles.
These weren't here last night.
And I remember looking out my window at a mole pile and you could see it quivering because there was a mole.
The mole's still in the pile.
And there was a cat that was staring at the mole pile. And I was like, hello, cat. This is what cats do.
Do your thing.
Get the mole. And the cat was just
that famous expression, a game of cat and mole.
Get the mole. Get the mole. Yeah, it was. We were playing cat and mole, and the cat could not figure out what was going on. Did not ever attack the mole. And I went through a whole process of trying to find mole methods of getting moles.
Mole methods, mole problems.
And all of them don't work. I mean, I put these mole traps. No.
All of them don't work.
My mom was putting garlic down mole holes.
They're not vampires.
The moles were just like, whatever. And now everywhere I look, there's moles.
You are never going to be able to segue back to MBAs here because do you even remember how you started talking about moles?
Well, let's see. It was, whack-a-mole.
Hey, there it is.
Whack-a-mole. But the modern science of evaluating business and evaluating business efficiency, they can, and they have, really trace it back to one of the favorite omnibus topics, which is to say, two American guys who were born in the early 20th century, and went to Ivy League schools.
Yeah.
Or went to college and got PhDs in physics. And the first one is Walter Andrew Schuhart. Walter Andrew Schuhart. What's funny about these, it's kind of a truism that if you put someone's middle name into your description of them, they sound like a serial killer, because the only people we talk about having middle names are serial killers.
Back in the day, they did it for every illustrious personage.
Yeah. But if you say Kenneth Wayne Jennings, total serial killer name.
Especially because it's Wayne.
Yeah. John Morgan Roderick.
John Morgan Roderick is more of a financier.
Yeah.
You got your thumbs under your suspenders if you're John Morgan Roderick.
Yeah, that's right. John Morgan Roderick owns some kind of steel manufacturing.
You got a concern.
A concern.
Yeah, you own a concern of some kind. You're puffing on a cigar.
Ultimately, my wife will start a foundation.
Yes, you'll have a concern. She'll have a foundation.
But our two stars here do not sound like serial killers or that they have foundations. What they sound like is business efficiency PhDs. Walter Andrew Schuhart and William Edwards Deming. Nowadays,
when I see the middle name, I always wonder, did that just get appended later? Do we not know that they went by Bill?
Yeah.
Is it just long enough ago that there's no sense of their public image?
I think these two were known as Walt and Bill. And Walt had a PhD in physics from Berkeley that he got in 1917. So born about 1900, right? Mm-hmm. Born in 1890s, let's say. And can you imagine Berkeley in 1917? I think of Berkeley as being a thing that came into existence in the 40s or 50s. But studying physics in 1917.
What do you picture?
Is physics?
I picture people doing mechanics.
Yeah.
Letting a weight go and watching it swing and measuring the angle. They're doing Newtonian stuff. I'm sure that's not right.
Well, yeah.
I'm sure the cloud chamber is older than we think.
I bet there were a lot of pendula.
Yeah, it's all pendula.
Yeah.
I'm majoring in pendula.
Pendula and penundra.
I never say pendula because everything just has one pendulum. It's never come up.
Sure. But if you go around the world and collect all the studies done by pendulum, they are pendula, have to be. But he got a job, as all inventors and physicists did at the time, at Bell Telephone, because as we know now, looking back, Bell Labs was the incubator of kind of everything.
Basically, right? They invented the century. Yeah.
They did. And he started studying industrial quality and control, and inspecting the process rather than the finished product. And famously, in 1924, Schuhart at Bell Labs, or then he moved to a subsidiary of Bell Labs that we also hear about all the time, Western Electric. Mm-hmm. Which provided all the technology to Bell Telephone Company. Schuhart sent a memo to his boss, George Edwards, I didn't record his middle name, but also sort of born at that turn of the century time, where he effectively, in the space of a one-page memo, laid out, described, and diagrammed what became the control chart, which was a way of measuring industrial efficiency using statistics. Here, everything basically is a bell curve.
Is it like steps in a process? Okay, it's a big curve of.
It's a curve where you can see that a certain amount of anomaly in manufacturing is regular anomaly, but there are statistical ways of measuring anomaly where you're detecting problems in the process. And by addressing those problems upstream of just looking at the finished product and going, well, this isn't working, you can use statistics, obviously pre-computer, there's somebody like me in a green visor bringing you files, but you would be able then to detect problems before and effect a solution a long time before you were dealing with these broken.
You might not even find out. It might be months before you would have got the call saying, "Hey, why is this efficiency? Why is this performance down here?" You'll actually know in advance,
exactly,
thanks to this guy's memo.
And Schuhart, like his process was, it kind of reverberated through people that were making more sophisticated technology. It's one thing in a steel mill to look at the quality of the steel and make these gross adjustments to your process. Let's stop throwing dead squirrels into the furnaces
or moles
because they're screwing up. They're screwing up our steel.
Yeah, there's like a single link between any problem and its solution, and that's not true when the product gets more complicated than smelting something.
Right, and Bell telephony was a thing where addressing the problem early.
Not telephony?
Oh, telephony.
Okay, telephony.
Is how we're going to say it on the omnibus from now on.
Because these guys are phonies.
Telephony. It's a very sophisticated process, but a lot of it gets buried. Lot of it,
like literally, or
like phone wires that aren't. But even the ones that are strung up above. But as the technology got better, a lot of it's under the streets, and it's much harder to go fix than it is to address that problem early on. But Schuhart's one of Schuhart's early acolytes, I guess, was William Deming, or Bill, as we're going to call him, who he was a guy, the son of chicken farmers in the Mountain West. He got his electrical engineering degree from University of Wyoming in 1921, which imagine University of Wyoming in 1921, pretty hot stuff.
But not quite Berkeley.
But then he went to the University of Colorado and got a degree in mathematics, or a master's degree in mathematics and physics, and then to Yale. And so he also was working at Bell Labs and Western Electric, and he saw this memo and realized that, the key realization, Schuhart was very technical and was focusing this control chart on manufacturing. Deming saw that it could be applied also to management, that a lot of
where do you get the measurements from?
Well, this is the thing. He saw that a lot of the industrial inefficiency at a larger scale was a problem that managers were disconnected from the process and making management decisions that ultimately produced problems in what was being made, because people at different levels it was no longer just one big factory floor. It was now people making independent electrical engineering decisions and so forth.
Even if you can't figure out what the bad decision was in such an easy statistical way, you can tell who the weak link is, right? You can tell where it's breaking down. This guy did something where his process is slower than everybody else's.
Right. Well, if you go down and you find out that they are making these things to the wrong tolerance, or they're making them at the wrong rate, or they're making, they're different parts, different systems within a large corporation, you could apply a control chart to that level of the operation as well.
Right.
And so Deming was, this is now, we're talking about the pre-war era. Deming's insights, what Schuhart kind of was very technical, and his memos and his, although he was very influential on that generation of people that had degrees in physics, he wasn't able to popularize his thinking, and Deming kind of acted as his editor. He would give extensive lectures to people in that world. Deming then took his lectures, condensed them into a book, and made them and popularized them, not within the business world, still within the confines of statisticians.
But this guy knew he was a pioneer. He'd invented something.
And everybody knew that Schuhart had stumbled onto something, but Deming really converted that into, and he was also a major pioneer in the understanding of business as a thing you could measure you could measure
performance.
human performance and not just machine performance. So Deming was hired...
therefore turning humans in an organization into something more like machines.
Yeah.
Which is what organizations always want. And
hip-hop hooray.
Got us to where we are today.
So Deming was hired to help kind of to build an algorithm to conduct the census in 1940, a process of collecting huge amounts of information and trying to sort it and discern it. I mean, censuses are based not on just finding a slip of paper for every human being, but you have to be able to count in the aggregate. You have to be able to extrapolate.
They want to break and slice that data across so many different axes.
And through that process, then during the war, he was part of a small team of efficiency experts that were applying these techniques sort of for the first time in the U.S. to the massive scale of mass production of wartime material that was being coordinated at the central hub of the United States government. So he was part of a 5-man team that was trying to employ statistics to make mass production efficient. And by the end of the war, there were a lot of what later on we would see as industrial efficiency being applied to the manufacture of tanks and guns and airplanes. That after the war, the success of American business was so comprehensive and so international,
every industry,
that there was a kind of return to waste in a way, because those
no competitors.
Yeah, no competitors, and those efficiencies were seen as a thing that might apply if you're talking about a totally centralized production efficiency, but you wouldn't think of it as being applicable to each manufacturer independently.
It's unpatriotic to have that kind of Soviet-style oversight.
Exactly. What the hell?
I'm just making light bulbs.
But at the end of the war, MacArthur takes over Japan and is running Japan, and he is, trying to repair Japan, and calls Deming over to help conduct the 1947 census of Japan, but also to improve the processes that the U.S. is using to manage the nation of Japan. And as a part of this, Deming gives a lecture to the Union of Japanese Scientists and Engineers, and gives this lecture on his insights into the quality control and the idea that you create business efficiency by, ahead of the manufacturing process in the management process. Basically,
he creates modern Japan.
Well, yes. He gives this lecture to all these young Japanese engineers and scientists in the rubble of Japanese industry, where almost everything has been bombed into rubble. And all the members, hundreds and hundreds of young engineers show up, and Deming basically says, you improve quality by reducing expense, by making management, by getting ahead of problems, and that increases productivity, and that is the heart and soul of managing manufacturing and of business. And among the young scientists that were at this meeting was a 29-year-old radio salesman, or somebody that had started a radio shop in Tokyo named Akio Morita, who went on to found Sony.
I was going to guess Sony.
Yeah.
That's my employer, so we can't say anything bad about Sony.
That's right.
Is that okay? Do you have only nice things to say about Sony right now?
Only nice things to say about Sony.
We love their Walkman.
Sony then basically sold the first tape recorder in Japan in 1950. You know, they took magnetic tape, which was a German invention, and started making it in Japan. They licensed the transistor from Bell, who developed it, but had not ever employed it outside of military applications. And Sony was the first kind of large-scale company to use the transistor in consumer products. But Deming was so influential in the rebuilding of Japanese industry that he was considered a national treasure of Japan.
Really? They got parades and stuff?
He was awarded the Order of Sacred Treasure, which is effectively like the Order of Sacred Treasure second class, which was effectively like the Order of the Rising Sun.
It's like knighting somebody.
Yeah, the Order of the Rising Sun is for people who contribute to Japanese matters of state. But the Order of Sacred Treasure is awarded to people who actually, affect...
It's commerce.
Yeah,
it's the commerce equivalent.
And matters of social change within Japan. Deming actually was offered royalties on his insights into manufacturing and into corporate, the corporate explosion that happened in
royalties
in making Japanese products,
as if it's some patentable IP he had.
Yeah, and he refused it, and so the Japanese developed the Deming Prize, which is still used in Japan to still awarded to people who make huge strides in Japanese industry. Well, Japanese industry, as we know, after the war, just revitalized the nation of Japan, turned them into the second largest economy in the world.
You kind of wonder if there would have been more protectionism if the West had known that. Is it like, well, we've pulverized this country. It's the least we can do is to tell them how to make a magnetic tape concern. But I wonder if people were ready for that turnaround. What's
crazy is that Deming was largely forgotten in the United States.
I was going to ask. So he's bigger in Japan.
In Japan.
He's like, what's some band that's bigger in Japan? I don't know.
Shonen Knife.
I meant
Trick.
I meant a Western Cheap Trick at Budokan. Yeah. There we go.
There are a lot of bands. I think the Fastbacks were a huge band in Japan, and they're obviously a huge band in Seattle. But
apparently, Bon Jovi broke in Japan before the U.S.
That's right. Huh. On a tour where he was opening for Ozzy or something.
Is that right?
Yeah. And what's incredible is that he was on the tour that came through Alaska, but his last show on the tour was Japan. And then he got off the tour. Maybe it was the Scorpions. He was opening for the Scorpions, which were huge. And he left the tour and he was replaced by a band called Fastway, which I think were Canadian. And they had a low-level song. You will. I remember the tune.
Never heard of Fastway.
But then, so Bon Jovi didn't make it in the U.S. for another year or something like that. Interestingly, Bon Jovi also bigger than Van Halen in the UK because they went over and over and over to the UK where Van Halen was like, whatever.
We don't care.
And then they finally went to the UK and they were opening for Bon Jovi, which shocked and dismayed them.
Do you know the Ventures are huge?
That makes sense.
I mean, who knows if this is real or AI slop, but the Ventures have been called the most popular rock band, American rock band in Japan.
Surf rock became a huge part of Japanese culture.
And if it's instrumentals, there's no language barrier.
Right. A lot of the Japanese guitars that got imported to the U.S. in the 60s are very surf rock coded. And so became part of indie rock later, sort of by reverse.
Japan is not that surfing coded.
No.
But they just like the music.
Surf rock, they really responded to it.
So Deming's not big here, but he's big there.
He's not big here. He's very, very big there, and very openly credited with the Japanese economic miracle and the development of all these large corporations that had that were technology focused and manufacturing focused. And so the Japanese car industry, the Japanese electronics industry, all started and outperformed American industry based on the principles laid out by
So
William
possibly
Deming.
it never would have happened, despite what we think of as, the ingenuity and industriousness of the Japanese people. It's largely due to this one guy's one speech.
This one guy's speech, and then increasing, like he went in and did these training sessions at the invitation of the Japanese Union of Scientists and Engineers. They kept bringing him back because his ideas reverberated so strongly, and that economic miracle of the recovery of Japan happened so quickly. I mean, by the 50s, it already was apparent that, out of the relative rubble of this country, and there may arguably be a lot of things in Japanese national character that used these principles in a way that would have been more difficult in the U.S., where there's much more emphasis on personal choice and individualism,
work-life balance, such as it is.
But it returned to the United States.
Well, hold on. This cuts against our idea that you and I kind of share, that a lot of this management stuff is just mumbo jumbo designed to sell books, that it's not actually a real practicable idea, but there is a basis for it that turned a whole country around.
Yes, we will see where it turns into mumbo jumbo.
Good. That's what I want. That's the mumbo jumbo moment.
There were instances in the U.S., particularly at Hewlett-Packard, which we know also was a big technology incubator. At Hewlett-Packard, there were a lot of these ideas were either independently developed or derived from the teachings of Deming, which accounts for a lot of the innovation that happened at Hewlett-Packard, and other technology stuff, but not on a massive scale. General Motors and Ford and all these big companies were still operating on the assumption that they couldn't fail, and that they were kind of testing, does the car work at the end? If so, then we must be doing a good job. But by the 70s, that had clearly stopped being the case. Japanese cars started outperforming U.S. cars in the U.S. market. There was an instance where Ford had transmissions being made in Japan they had kind of two plants that were making transmissions for the same car, one in Japan and one in the United States. And people who were ordering the car started to request the Japanese transmissions.
Like the gearheads knew.
Yeah, and were waiting. They were willing to go on a waiting list for a car with the Japanese transmission, even though U.S. transmission cars were available at the time.
Was this just some sense of cool, or word had gotten around?
No, it was uncool, I think. But yeah, the word had gotten around that those cars just were outperforming the American-made cars in terms of the degree of precision. Because American industrial process by that time, their level of tolerance was at the quarter inch or eighth inch, whereas Japanese expectations of industrial tolerance were much more down to the third decimal point, and it really showed in the marketplace. And then at the time, there was a lot of protectionism and still a lot of racism and suspicion about Japan, but you couldn't argue with success. And they were introducing consumer electronics to the U.S. that would just, Betamax and the Walkman, all these, and all the Toyotas and Hondas.
It was no longer a punchline of, look at this cheap rip-off Asian ticky-tack stuff. It was like the mainstream of the future. It was modern America.
Yeah, nobody in the U.S. was developing a Walkman, certainly. And so in 1980, the peak of the malaise years when U.S. cars were just falling apart, junk, and couldn't compete with the energy crisis and would blow up if you rear-ended them. There was an NBC put a little sort of special white paper hosted by Lloyd Dobbins. Do you remember Lloyd Dobbins? He was one of these Bill Curtises of his time.
Just a correspondent.
Correspondent. And this show was produced by a woman named Claire Mason, called If Japan Can, ellipses, Why Can't We? And in the space of the documentary, they pointed to these innovations there of a management philosophy that recognized that manufacturing is a holistic system and that they were emphasizing continual improvement and refinement of the process. And they referred to William Deming throughout the episode, saying like, this American is the wellspring of all these ideas. And suddenly Deming was the face of what became the American attempt to catch up with the Japanese and refine our business practices.
Was Deming still alive?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Still alive. He was born in 1900 and he lived to 1993.
Wow.
So it's a case of good management producing longevity. I think there's no way you can refute the connection.
100% of people who turned around the Japanese economy lived to be 93.
But so now everybody wanted to understand what Deming was saying. And with Claire Mason, he produced the first management training VHS for sale 14-hour management training seminar.
So basically, management training courses did not exist?
Did not exist.
Maybe on some level in-house?
I mean, they'd existed in Japan. At some level in-house, but they did.
But there was no industry. That's so funny.
I know.
Of nobody turning out these crappy...
I know. And then what became books, and then books ad nauseum, about how to practice management.
Because do you remember in the late 80s when like John Cleese pivoted to, I'm going to put out funny management training videos?
Yeah.
So it was like basically a brand new thing that he had, that had never occurred to me, that he saw a brand new niche and was like, oh, these could be entertaining. He's like, it's just a matter of years.
And now it's a whole sub-industry for people that used to write for Wired.
It's a quarter of the bookstore and half of the airport bookstore.
That's right. And people, I mean, my podcast co-host Merlin Mann got his start as a pundit partly by taking comedy efficiency lectures and flying around giving long talks to the Apple managers at what at the time seemed like an insane amount of money. And he went through the process, I think, that you've also gone through, which is that they say, hey, we'd like to pay you $20,000 to come give an hour-long speech. And then you arrive and they're like, but it's actually 18 hours of walking around and meeting every single employee of the company.
That only happened to me once. Thank you, Geography Department of Miami University of Ohio. Everybody else is nice.
Well, I saw it happen a lot with Powell's books when writers
really?
who were friends would come through and we'd do a little show down in Portland, and then the expectation was that they would have 15 signings and 2 cocktail parties. But so in immediate response to these Deming management seminars, Ford Motor Company, which had lost over $3 billion in the late 70s, early 80s, because nobody was buying Fords. They were all, I don't know if you remember the Ford Mustang of the late 70s, but it was just a Pinto with mag wheels.
During the oil crisis, nobody wanted a Mustang?
Well, people just saw, I don't know, if I'm going to buy a car, why not have a Toyota, which is less expensive and way more reliable.
Run forever. Yeah.
And actually kind of zippy, too. But Ford started employing Deming, and Deming said, look, 85% of your problems are at the management level. They're not. It's not a manufacturer. It's not the unions and the soggy factories. It's management just isn't recognizing like these gross inefficiencies in your process. And in the space of just 5 years, Ford turned around by 1986. This is you would be too young for this, but I remember the day the new Ford Thunderbird came out. And it looked so modern and cool. It was shaped like a lozenge instead of shaped like a Pinto. Huh. Can you look at a picture of the 1986 Ford Thunderbird and see what a radical change it represented? The Taurus came out of that process.
Yeah, it does. This T-Bird looks more like a Taurus than I thought it would.
Yeah, and that
because I had family members drive. Like the Taurus was the top-selling car in America for many of the next 15 years.
Ford turned it around in 5 years and became the most profitable American automaker for the first time ever, knocking General Motors off of the list. So now we're going to pivot to the Toyota company and what became known as the Toyota Production System, which was pioneered by Taiichi Ono, who was the leader of the company and someone who developed a system called Genchi Genbutsu, which translated from the Japanese means real location, real thing. And his innovation was based on what now we think of in all these management books referred to as the Gemba Walk. And the Gemba Walk is where managers actually go down to the floor where things are being made and walk around. Just walk around, look at stuff. And it's kind of we see it a lot now where engineers and product managers and marketing people are all kind of put together in the same lunchroom and just allowed to chat with each other and realize, oh my God, marketing's trying to sell something that we're not making. And we could be. Marketing and engineering should actually talk more.
I think my brother-in-law works for a company that purposefully mixes stuff like that. Like they don't actually have marketing over here and development over here and sales over here. Like they kind of like to swirl things around. People from different, even people working remotely from different offices. Like I think it's the same thing. Like you otherwise you don't get that kind of cross hybridization. I guess now we say synergy. Yuck.
Synergy. Yuck. But there's a story that Taiichi Ono would draw a chalk circle on the floor of the factory and take young engineers and young managers and stand them in the circle and say, what do you see? Just tell me what you can see from inside this circle. And they would, kind of look around and report what they could perceive. And there was a kind of an expectation that they would see a lot of what was happening in what they would eventually be managing that they didn't actually perceive just by looking. And Ono was trying to teach them, like, you can affect efficiency, productivity, ultimately profitability just by being here and taking what you learn back to your white-collar office.
So it's not so much about being seen. It's a little about the morale of just having management down among the, on the production floor. It's really about knowing what's going on.
Well, you just hit on what became later the problem. American manufacturing during this 1980s, like, why are the Japanese like kicking our butts at everything? Learned about the Gemba Walk. Learned about they actually turned Genchi Genbutsu into get your boots on, meaning get down there and get dirty.
Right.
But there was a kind of...
It's funny. It's funny, by the way. It's funny. This was revolutionary.
Yeah, I know.
Like that, people were so isolated in their offices with their bar, martini bars in their offices that this was a shocking idea
to go down and just see what you were actually making.
Right.
And this all kind of went into what became one of the first really popular management books that came out in 1982, written by Tom Peters and Robert Waterman. And this book, called In Search of Excellence, became the first mega bestseller of business as an idea. A business efficiency, how do we turn these insights of Deming's insights into a book we can sell at airports? And this was, a massive cultural changing book about efficiency. And part of it described this process that had also sort of been used at Hewlett-Packard, effectively the Gemba Walk, which was management by wandering around.
How is that different?
Well, the idea being
It sounds dumber.
Not management by walking around telling people what to do.
Oh, I see.
Not management by standing in a circle and observing, but by actually sort of just poking around and sort of leaning over and saying, like, what are you doing right now? What's that? And making, erasing that divide between management and the people working for management, sort of open door policy. I mean, it became a lot of things. Active listening, that became a kind of catchphrase within business thinking, and a kind of a style of management that would be ideal for me. Management by wandering around. My God, I would be the world's greatest executive if what you did was wander around and look over people's shoulders and go, what are you doing now? Well, what's this?
I assume there's some assumption that with that knowledge, you then make amazing, more informed decisions.
Because what you're learning...
see connections.
Yeah, that's right. But you're also learning from people who are doing the job. What would make this job easier? Why we're not doing this right? Everybody on the shop floor's got an opinion about what could make the job better.
Right.
The problem, as you have pointed out a couple of times, is that became polluted by... I mean, you can only write so many books about it. And every new book wants to have some innovation. And what became the problem is a lot of people who were managing by walking around were doing it for the sake of doing it.
We all know good managers walk around. So, 2:00.
Right. It became performative. And a lot of active listening became performative active listening.
Right.
And managers would get down on the floor, but they would have a script where they would communicate with employees, but maintaining that distance.
Especially if they've either seen in-house training or bought some of these stupid bestsellers telling them, this is what a good manager looks like.
Right. They would go walk around the floor, but they'd be coaching as they went instead of actually just like, and this was the amazing thing about the Japanese, because we think of them as being hyper impersonal and effective, or hyper impersonal, like machine processes, but there was a lot of humility in the way they listened and respected the people that were making the things.
That seems like a very Japanese ethos as well.
It does.
To respect the craftsmanship. And
absolutely. There was a lot of misunderstanding in the 80s interpretation of Japanese success that focused on it being all about efficiency. But a lot of it was they were not dictating, they were absorbing. And a big part of it was a big difference between the American walk around, the American, and there's often a kind of mistranslation of management by wandering around. It got changed often to management by walking around.
Wandering what seems more aimless?
Yeah, wandering is more
Investigative, right?
yeah, and it doesn't feel official enough.
Yeah, walking around could be a task.
Right. Walking around is a task and also a thing you do with an entourage. So your status remains elevated, but you're much less likely to have real encounters with people. So one of the things that Tom Peters said in his book is that aimless wandering actually takes discipline, whereas what seems more disciplined, walking around, is actually, it doesn't have the same level of discipline
It's a checklist.
as being able to listen. So now we're living in a world where American interpretation of management by wandering around has, again, sort of failed to appreciate, and this plethora of business books turned it into a new inefficiency, a new set of processes that ultimately failed to capture. They imitated the end result of Japanese business that was an end result of Deming's insights of Schuhart's original statistics, and they turned it back into a science game.
If I walk for 40 minutes a day, the cars get better, right?
Right. And you don't, and those managers don't want to hear the truth. And so they want people to parrot back to them that everybody's doing a good job because there's 17 levels of management and nobody wants to lose their job. And
The explosion of levels of management is like a huge part of this story.
that's right.
Right? Like it's no longer, everything's diffuse. It's all a game of telephone.
And it's all,
You don't want to be the squeaky wheel.
it's measured by the bell curve, by the data. You're not trying to, I mean, ultimately you are performing because the end product is the data, rather than recognizing that what you're really looking for is, and this is really true now that we have this like manufacturing on demand business culture, like the efficiency of not keeping things in the warehouse.
Yeah.
But of course, it's a system that's much more fragile in terms of one little problem can throw that whole thing. We saw that at the end of the pandemic. Like, wait a minute, why are there no anythings? And it's, manufacturing on demand couldn't keep up with that
Demand.
with demand.
As you say. And that concludes Management by Wandering Around. Entry 754.PS10740, certificate number 36485, in the omnibus. Future links, we would never incentivize you to go on social media, but for many of the years I was here with John, we were at Ken Jennings, at John Roderick, jointly at Omnibus Project.
Oh, on Twitter.
It doesn't seem like you're really part of your regime is going to be a real social media initiative.
No, but now what our generation fails to appreciate is that social media is almost entirely short form videos of people setting themselves on fire for likes or doing unboxing videos of very expensive purses.
Do you think it works for podcasting? Are you interested in video clips on Instagram and TikTok?
I don't know how a long form podcast can be excerpted into little comedic.
It would just be the dumbest thing. It would be like you saying something and me making a pun, and then you laugh, and then it freezes because that's the end of the TikTok.
Right, and then you ring the bell, and I talk to a sock puppet. Hey, Ken, what do you think?
I do see clips from people's video, like it's people like it's Bill Hader going on Conan's podcast or something.
Yeah, those are funny.
But those go around.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is if we were actually funny, we could do it.
I mean, it's possible that if we'd been doing this for the last 6 years, there would be a whole. We would have been tailoring what we do to video that most of our listeners would not see, but there might be a whole new audience. I got a very interesting. I saw a very interesting message from a fan of Omnibus and a longtime listener who said, now, if you go to YouTube, you can start having guest hosts who are already YouTube stars.
Ooh.
So not...
Has that been your dream to hang out with more YouTubers, John?
It hasn't, but there are a lot of YouTubers that do long-form content that are very smart and informed. They're not all just bungee jumpers. And I think we've been pitched many times like, hey, do you want to do a crossover episode with this podcast that has a fraction of your listenership? And it's like, we keep saying, not really. But maybe we can convince some YouTuber who has an exponentially larger audience that this would be a fun...
If you do that, we'll have to cut out this thing at the end of the show where we always say how much social media sucks.
Right.
Except for our one YouTuber friend. Don't forget Mr. Bob.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Don't forget the blob. I do feel like... Who knows what of all of our little peccadillos are actually going to survive the change? All of the times that we spend sitting talking about Marxism, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to end up with all your new guest hosts will be super enthusiastic grind set capitalists. God only knows.
Maybe every show will be about management technique from now on.
That's right.
Oh, that's the dream.
I've had a couple of people say like, why don't you just pivot to a cooking show? I'm like, the only thing I know how to make is macaroni and cheese with hamburger.
Remember we had one good idea maybe I shouldn't give this away here. We had one good idea for a podcast, which is just you and I just get a random old newspaper and just leaf through it.
I know.
Oh, hey, it's January 13th, 1976. I've got the sports page. John, do you want live or do you want city?
I want to know what Henry Kissinger's up to.
That's actually a great show. Is anybody doing it? Maybe.
I don't think anyone is. That is a great show. If you're hearing this now, don't take that idea because that may be a new omnibus adjacent show.
I think it happened once when somebody sent us an old paper and we just started like reading Broomhilda. And then we were like, wait, this is actually better than whatever we were talking about before. But you can find other Futurelings online. There's a Facebook group. There's a subreddit, I think. There's a Discord. There's all kinds of stuff. But don't get on social media. It's just for us. Do email us at theomnibusproject@gmail.com with any feedback, or as John points out, Mars needs guest hosts.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And, one of the things that I'm noticing in all of the guest hosts signing up is we could use more guest hosts who might think right out of the gate, oh, I won't be a good host because I don't know that much about 19th century sailing ships.
You're tired of the know-it-all confidence of every single person who's applied so far?
Well, it's not that. All of the ideas we've gotten are great. I think actually what I'm seeing is that our listeners know what an omnibus episode looks like. And so they're like, oh, this would be a great Ken show. This would be a great John show.
They're pitching the center of the bell curve.
Yeah.
So you're getting over and over too many episodes about ICBMs or something.
They are all great. They all would be great episodes, and they will be great episodes. But I think people forget that what makes the omnibus great is that you and I often see great omnibus episodes, and we go, oh, this is kind of like the record Tattoo You, where the Rolling Stones did a Rolling Stones record as though they'd never seen one before. Like, oh, this is what the Rolling Stones sound like. It was a huge hit.
You don't want an AI recreation of what an omnibus show would be like.
Yeah.
So more diverse topics.
A lot of the songs on Tattoo You, they had rejected because they were like, that just sounds like us pretending to be us. So yeah, I want to hear from people that are like, I'm not an expert on anything. It's like, yeah, find a thing that you can be an expert on.
If you just want to talk about the garlic press for an hour, that's fine.
Yeah. Or talk about, that's right, like ghostly baby dolls or whatever.
And if you're not a middle-aged white man with a tech career, exactly our demographic, boy, that wouldn't hurt. But of course, everyone listening maybe is a white straight tech guy of exactly our...
No, as you know from social media, we have a lot of listeners who are women, who are people of color, who are people across the spectrum of mental and emotional disabilities. Everything. And, across every spectrum there can possibly be. And I think a lot of people who aren't super confident white dudes in their 40s are like, no, I wouldn't.
This is the Jeopardy problem.
Yeah.
Like, women are great at trivia, but do you know who's super confident that they will be great at trivia? White men.
Yeah.
So
Women are hilarious and know tons of stuff, but what they don't do is sign up in the first 2 weeks to be Omnibus co-host.
exactly.
So even though it is a trope of modern times to say, hey, let's get some diversity in here, it really would, I think, benefit the show a lot.
Yes. And
Also, remember, Ken and I don't know anything.
exactly. Like the bar's been set extremely low.
Yeah.
You can send us physical objects. The mailbox is still, for the moment, P.O. Box 55744, Shoreline, Washington, 98155. Here's a couple postcards, one for each of us from Ukraine, from Kyiv. Mine says 22 August 2025, 5 trips to Kyiv delivering, and then I can't read. What is he delivering? Aid. That makes sense. I was like, delivering aid. Wow. Thank you, Rye, R-Y.
What does Rye have to say to me? Something different?
Here's a picture from trip 4. This is mailed on trip 5. Oh.
But that's a picture from trip 4.
Yes.
What is it a picture of?
It's like him and some of his aid delivering buddies in front of the big Kyiv sign. You know how cities now all have a giant,
I do know.
like, 1 million point font saying, "You're in Quito, Ecuador." Because when you go to Quito, what you want is to stand in front of giant red letters that say Quito.
Right.
That's the main thing.
But didn't all those...
But Kyiv has a good one because it's got like some kind of icon art, Slavic art looking designs.
I think of all of those former Soviet Union
I should show the
cities
camera.
as already having a brutalist sign at the...
Yeah, it's,
at the entry to the city.
but theirs are all fading cement or crumbling cement, right?
Picture of a rocket.
Thank you so much for sending those in. I don't know when this comes out in October. I hope there are still tickets available. I hope it's almost sold out, but there's still time for you to join us in Seattle on, what is it, November 8th?
November 8th.
The Friday, November 8th, for a big fun show with lots of surprises. I mean, it'll be an omnibus.
Some real surprises.
Some mild, there will be at least 2 mild surprises for those who think they know everything about Omnibus. Just to celebrate the beginning of the guest host-a-thon. And of course, you can always support Omnibus at our Patreon. Patreon.com/Omnibus Project is really the engine that runs the show. You're not going to do this for free. And now you've got a team running the show.
Yeah.
They're doing the thing where they want money, where they rub their thumb against their index and middle fingers.
Yeah.
Is that what they're doing right now?
Well, this is the problem that a lot of, I think, Omnibus listeners are already pretty aware of, which is all the work that you and Mindy do, which you just are you're the silent,
pro bono.
You're the silent service of the Omnibus, which I recognized really early I would be incapable of doing. Certainly, I would be incapable of doing any of the work Mindy does.
Incapable of being interested in it.
Yeah. Well, I'm capable of being interested in it, like from a Gemba walk perspective.
Yeah, you should come over and just give Mindy a little shoulder rub while she's doing the spreadsheets.
How are you doing this?
Hey, what's up?
But knowing that I would run the show right into the ground, I have had to now employ some helpers. And of course, as everyone knows, one of the Omnibus co-hosts is not a millionaire friend of Matt Damon. And so, yeah, please do join the Patreon and support the show, especially to make up for all the people that only listen for Ken.
Think of all the me people just bailing.
Just
be like, when is Ken going to start his podcast with Matt Damon?
Oh my God, John is just talking.
They just talk about the Red Sox and sustainable developing world hygiene.
What I think it is either people that love puns who are like, John does no puns.
Those people have no money. Those people aren't donating.
And then there are the people that are like, I hate listen to the show because I despise John so much.
But he only talks half the time.
Yeah. And Ken's fine.
They can maybe make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need, if you're somebody who wants to see the new iteration of Omnibus succeed, let us know at patreon.com/Omnibus Project. Doesn't affect me at all. Frankly, I can take it or leave it. But
Listen.
But John's got a mortgage payment.
You're the executive producer of this show. Its
true.
success is going to reflect on your, I don't know. I mean, in Hollywood, being an executive producer is really, that's how you know whether you're doing good.
It shows you have enough prestige to get this stupid vanity credit because clearly your work is not leading to it. Your skills are not that important. No, I am continuing to consult on this show. I want to come back from time to time.
When you go on
unpaid,
the Conan,
apparently.
When you go on the Conan show and you're sitting on the couch like, podcasting, am I right?
Me and just Fred Armiston sharing some jokes.
You have to say, hey, and as an executive producer, the new Omnibus with John Roderick, which you should support on Patreon.
So good.
Doing great.
Did I cover it? I covered it.
I think so. Future links from our vantage point in your distant past. We have no idea how long our civilization survived. We hope and pray that the catastrophe we fear may never come. But if the worst comes soon, this recording, like all our recordings, may have been our final word. But if Providence allows, we wish you many goods and cheese and hope to be back with you soon for another entry in the Omnibus.